Underrated Movies. I'm your guy, I'm your man, Mr. Alton Henry, and today I'm going to talk to you about another film that I believe is severely underrated. You need to check out immediately, currently available on Tubi. The Standoff at Sparrow's Creek, starring James Bagdale, Patrick Fisher, Brian Gertley, and Chris Mulkey. And it's a drama thriller mystery film about a former cop turned militia who is investigating the tragedy at a police funeral, a shooting that takes place where he and the rest of his militia group rendezvous at a warehouse to figure out what's going on and possibly investigate once they figure out one of their weapons is missing. So I actually remember seeing the trailer of this years ago, and it's slipped my mind, but I remember just revisiting the trailer, and I was like, oh yeah, I wanted to check it out. And guess what? So it happens to be available to watch on Tubi, and I'm gonna tell you, this is one of the best thrillers I've seen in a long time. Most specifically, one that relies on tension and dialogue. And rarely does it happen where just people are just talking and the atmosphere kind of just really settles in, and the tone gets you going. It really grabs you. And the movie doesn't really have like a strong hook in the beginning, but once they introduce the situation, sells it. The dialogue, how cleverly written that this film explains a story. Clever. Most specifically, you're at one location for pretty much for the remainder of the film. After a few introductions of the main character, you meet at this warehouse where you're basically there for much of the film. And I'm gonna tell you this: James Bagdale is a powerhouse performance, and I think he's underrated. After first seeing him in what's that film? The Departed, minor role, but seeing him tackle other roles and him getting more shine, I think he is severely underrated. Him with his as the villainous like henchman in Iron Man 3, his performance in The Empty Man, and this guy sells you a lead role. He plays a cop, former cop, militia. They make it a little bit known kind of early on in the film that he's an undercover cop. Spoilers. That he's here to try to bring down this militia group that they're all that he's in. But he also needs to sell out that somebody did in fact take one of their weapons and blaze a bunch of cops at a funeral. Let me sip my coffee. So he starts to interrogate his teammates to see if they have anything to do with it, to see if they broke down and decided to go AWOL. And he makes it kind of very known that early on, when he tries to interrogate a few of the members, he tries to find ways to seek out somebody that could have possibly done it. Now, the main leader of the militia group, somewhat you could say the bad guy, can already kind of figure out that there's certain members in the group that he already knows. Like, I don't believe that They could have done it. I don't believe he done it. I don't believe he done it. So you kind of have this like pressure against time that James Bagdell needs to either find somebody to kind of take the blame for the shooting, because they before the cops find out, before everybody finds out, it gets wasted. And then the main bad guy, I forget his name. I forget his name. Also pressures James Bagdell, because there's certain peoples that he kinds of like tries to say like, okay, he may not have done it. He may not have done it. He starts to question his ability to interrogate these people, and then paranoia kind of sets on him and some of his actions. But you also see James Bagdell, he's also somewhat of a isolated, broken man who's done things in the past where he feels very alone and isolated and just closed off in his not his demeanor, but you see him kind of just losing a bit faith of himself on being undercover too long, and the guy lives isolated, so you see him kind of just possibly maybe finding things relatable of motives of what triggered this supposedly potential shooting that takes place. Like the dialogue is spot on. Like man, like it's like the writing is so good, and the characters are I believe are fleshed out enough to know what's going on. I think there could have been maybe a little bit more character development, but I'm gonna tell you, the dialogue I thought was superb, and one of the most underrated films I've seen in a long time. It does follow, the trend of, I guess you could say, one location kind of movies, because it is. I mean, the movie is a low budget film, so it reminds you a lot of The Hateful Eight. The Hateful Eight came out like 2015. This is 2018. So I can tell you this film had a lot of influences from The Hateful Eight, and it's not a surprise at all. It's not a surprise at all. And Reservoir Dogs, I would believe this film is more of a reference or inspiration to Reservoir Dogs than it is to The Hateful Eight, because I think there's certain things The Hateful Eight does a little bit more creatively than than Reservoir Dogs, but this one's more of a love letter to Reservoir Dogs. And surprisingly, and this is what I really liked about it, it relies more on dialogue and tension and character. There is no music in this film at all. You don't hear a single drop of music for the duration, maybe except for the end credits. For the duration of I think the movie's like 85 minutes runtime. It's not a long movie, but it's one I highly recommend you check out, especially if you're looking for a good thriller. The Standoff at Sparrow's Creek. Have you seen it? Comment below and let me know if you have, and let me know what is your favorite underrated movie.